episode is made for busy people like you and like me who need a little bit of efficiency in their lives in order to stay sane while they keep blogging. Alicia Gonzalez Tome, she is the blogger at Bites in the Wild, joins me in this interview to talk about how to grow your blog as a side hustle or as a busy person and just tap into some efficiency so that you don't feel burned out all the time. She has so many resources that she shares that are really helpful for both newer bloggers and more experienced bloggers. I gained so much from this interview, and that's coming from someone who has a pretty efficient, streamlined life and business. I thought it was great. I hope you absolutely love it. Alicia, welcome. So great to have you here.
Hi, Megan. Hello. I'm so excited to be here. It's my first podcast. So yeah, very excited and a bit nervous.
Yay. Oh, no need to be nervous. It's all good. We're calm here, chill over at eBlog Talk. No, this will be a great conversation. I'm really excited about it. And I'm really excited to hear about your story because you have grown your blog as a side hustle, and it sounds like you're a fairly busy human. But before we get into that amazing story, do you have a fun fact to share with us?
Yes, I have a fun fact, and is that me and my partner, when we met, it was the Mardi Gras parade, which here in Australia is like the parade for like the gay people, and he was wearing a red dress, and the day that we met he was wearing he was dressing up as a woman, and I thought yes, pretty fun story.
And that's how you met and you fell in love with the red dress. I think so. Every time I meet a couple, I like to ask them what their meeting story was, because every story about how people meet is so unique, and I haven't heard one that I'm like, oh, that's boring. It's always fun, and I love yours. That's great.
Yeah.
So
and I remember...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I was going to say, I remember, like we met, we were in the club, and then at some point he was inviting me to a drink, and I was like, all right, I love your dress, but what about if next time that we catch up, you are just wearing pants and here, which was good.
So he did show up with pants next time. That's good.
Yes, he did.
But that means that he's fun. He has personality. So it probably told you a lot about him that he was willing to dress in a red dress, right?
Yes.
I love it. Never had that fun fact. Thank you, Alicia. So let's get into our topic. And to frame this, I think it would be really helpful just to give us a little bit of information about your blog, which is called Bites in the Wild.
Yes. So I started my blog in 2021. That's when I decided that I wanted to do something with my passion for cooking. I come from a very big extended family, 9 siblings either side on my mom and my dad's side. There's always been a super big cooking tradition, and I guess I grew up with that. I loved it, but I was never like a social media person or anything, although I would always like scroll in Pinterest because I love cooking, so I would love to browse recipes. And it was in 2020, I was diagnosed with a thyroid disorder, so with Hashimoto's disease. So that really, I'd say, like, it was kind of like a bit of a tipping point in my life, because I was like, well, at some point I thought I was losing control of my life. It was a really hard time for me, but very luckily I was able to overcome it thanks to changing my diet. So, and also with Chinese medicine. So I changed my diet to a gluten-free and a dairy-free diet. Obviously as well, like no alcohol and no processed food, but I was already like not doing a lot of that. So yeah, I could see how changing my diet really made like a huge impact in my body. It was super helpful for me. And I guess it was that what really, made me want to share more of that with other people. I thought that could be maybe like the reason for me to start sharing recipes online and sharing my passion for cooking. And that's also why I decided to do my blog as gluten-free and dairy-free. And we were always kind of like moving, traveling. We have a camper van that we love to do trips on. And I kind of wanted to incorporate a bit of that on my blog. So that's where the name of Bites in the Wild come from, because I do a lot of cooking in the wild, I guess. And yeah, that's a bit like the backstory.
That, and like your story with meeting your partner, I feel like that story just completes your blog. I love that. Bites in the Wild. Now
Thank
it just
you.
makes sense. Of
Yes.
course. Yeah. So your blog is focused on certain diet restriction, like dairy free and gluten free, you said?
Yes, that's right. So
Okay.
all my recipes are gluten free and dairy free. Sometimes I also, like when I'm doing the recipes, I explain, if you are not like dairy or gluten intolerant, these are the modifications that you do. But yeah, I decided to make that my niche, since that was really the diet that I was following when I was healing from my thyroid disorder. And today I'd say that 85% of the time I still do that diet. I'm a little bit more flexible now because I'm fine now. I don't suffer from the thyroid disease anymore. But yeah, I decided to keep that as my niche, and all my recipes are like very healthy recipes, very wholesome, using fresh ingredients, and pretty much like cooking from scratch.
Okay. Love getting that background on your blog and you. So you grew your blog as a side hustle. So you must have been doing something else. Did you have a full-time job or do you have a full-time job?
Yes, so I did have a full-time job until, so it's now end of February 2025. So I had a full-time job until end of June of last year. um I'm an interior designer. It was funny as well because, so I live in Australia since 8 years ago. I'm originally from Spain, but I've always had the same job in Australia, and I started mainly like as a kitchen and bathroom designer. I really loved it, but then the company that I was working for kept growing, so now we do food renovations, and today I'm still working for them, but now I'm working as a contractor for them rather than an employer, rather than an employee, sorry, which is great because it gives me a lot more flexibility in a personal level, and then also to work on my blog, because it's really, I mean, and I'm sure everybody that is trying to run a blog while working full time, you know how hard it is to try to do everything, and sometimes it can also be a bit like frustrating, let's say, because you really want to work on your blog, but you really need to fulfill a full-time job, and it's hard to do it all. And I'm not gonna lie, last year, like I already knew I was gonna make the transition to work as a like contractor slash freelancer, and I really wanted to grow my blog during that time, because I really, at that point, I really wanted to start making it, turn it into a business. And yeah, I was trying to do so much, and at some point, like, I burnt out. I could identify how I burnt out because I remember one day I was trying to do like a muffin recipe. It didn't turn out well, and I started crying, and my partner was like,
Oh,
why are you crying? And I'm like, my muffins didn't turn out well. It's like, honey, it's
oh.
okay. And I was like, all right, I think I need to slow down a little bit because this is not healthy for me. And
Crying over muffins is a sign that maybe you should slow down. Yes.
yes, I know. And it was funny as well because, like, one of the things that in a way I was a bit scared when I started the blog, because like I started also wanting to share like a bit of my story with the thyroid, but I knew that I couldn't just be loading myself with like so much work to do. And I was a bit scared of that. And at some point I could see how that was happening. So I guess, I experienced it, but in a way it was good that I was able to identify that and, like step back a little bit, because also if, it was a little bit contradictory if, I wanted to share how, we have to be healthy and listen to our body and, like live a little bit like in peace and slower. And then I was not doing that. So I was like, all
Yeah.
right, I really need to be doing what, in a way I share that is kind of like the
Yeah.
the right thing to do.
Right. Yeah, it is a lot. I mean, it is no joke. I've been there working a full time job and running a blog and having a family, having a child with special needs, it's no joke. Life, I think, for all of us is no joke. So whether people listening have a full-time job or maybe they are just like a mom of 4 or something, life is kind of crazy and we need to get those little tips and resources that can help us to grow and do this without burning out. So it sounds like you have some things to share with us. So you have tips and resources for us. So tell us what has worked for
Yes.
you as you've grown your blog.
Yes. So, well, I want to say as well that I guess as a lot of the people out there, when I started my blog, I had no idea about anything. So I did everything wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't know about keyword research. I didn't know about SEO. So I was just saying, oh my gosh, I've got this amazing recipe. I'm just going to post about it. But then obviously, if there is no search volume for that, nobody was looking for that. So it's not driving traffic to my blog. So it took a little bit of time for me to understand how things work. So some of the resources that I found really useful were listening to podcasts. I listened to your podcast. I listened to Food Blogger Pro. And then I also listened to the Blogging Millionaire. So I found them all very useful. For the first year as well, I signed up to Food Blogger Pro. I thought it was very useful to understand basic tools like Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and also learn some basic photography tips. Also to get like some understanding of SEO. And it was also really good to be part of a community where you can ask questions and there's people out there that is going to respond to your questions. But the only thing is that I only was there for a year because I found I didn't have enough time to use it. Basically, I was working full time. I was trying to create content, and then I had like so much information, which was great. But I found, right, like, to be honest, like I couldn't justify the price after that because I just didn't have time. And then also YouTube was very useful to do like photography tutorials. There is so much free content. There is one channel out there that I found very useful. It's called The Bite Shot, I think. And
Oh, yeah.
she does photography videos, and she explains everything very in detail, very well. So I highly recommend those if you need some like just photography tips. And then, so at the beginning, what I started using for keyword research was SEMrush. So you can do a few, like, you can research a few keywords for free every day. So I was using that. And then I also did a few, free trials. I use a few different email addresses to get a few free trials. And I found that it was very helpful once I started understanding SEO. Some of the recipes that I did with SEMrush that I found I had ranking potential, they actually started driving traffic to my blog. So I'd say that it was around 2024, maybe like mid 2023 when I started doing things right. I was pretty doing things wrong for the first 2 years. And once I started really, I could hear how everyone was like, you need to focus on SEO, you need to focus on SEO. And then I was like, all right, maybe I need to really focus on this. And once I started doing it, I could really start seeing results, which was really good. Because I decided that, I was putting so much effort into my blog. I really wanted to turn it into a business, not only a hobby. So I realized I really need to use the right tools. And then another tool that I use, and I know you love it, is RankIQ. I just can't explain how much of a difference this tool has made
Oh,
to
I
my
love it.
blog.
I'm so glad you use that. Yes.
It's incredible. And I have to thank you because, it's been after listening to your podcast that I was like, all right, maybe I need to give this a try. Honestly, I'm in love. It's just made like a huge difference. I think is RankIQ really the tool that has made skyrocket my traffic. It's so easy to use. It makes writing very easy because I know exactly all the keywords that I need to include. So I do all the keyword research on their keyword library. And if I have a recipe that is not on their keyword library, I still run the report through them. Like I use another tool, like for example, SEMrush, to check if I have ranking potential. So if I see that I have ranking potential, then I run it through the RankIQ report, and I write the recipe. I always aim for an A plus in the H1 title and an A plus plus on the content. I know some people say like, oh, you don't always need like A plus plus. I'm like, I'm just gonna play it safe. It's working, so I'm gonna keep doing it. And I know sometimes it can be a little bit hard to include enough keywords to achieve an A plus plus mark. But what I found is that sometimes some of the keywords that maybe don't fit like in your recipe, you can use them, for example, like in the substitutions and variations section. And that's a way, to include those extra keywords to achieve that higher score. And I also find the reduced version of RankIQ is enough for me. So it allows 8 reports a month, and it costs 29 American dollars, which is 46 Australian dollars. So I know it's a bit of an investment, and it's hard to justify this when you are not making money. But I think if you want to use your blog as a business, you need to invest money. At the beginning, I was trying to do everything for free, but as any other business, you need to spend a bit of money. And the reality is that I saw the returns. So, I think every cent was very well spent.
Good. I'm so glad you used RankIQ and find it to be helpful. I do think that people overlook tools like RankIQ as being something that can actually give you your time back, because you can do so much legwork trying to get all the keyword strategizing down, and that tool just simplifies everything and makes my life so easy. So I'm glad that you find that as well.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing.
yeah, yes, it is. And the optimizer is my favorite. It just helps me to write posts so fast and write updates too. I do a lot of post updating. So it is a magic tool, I swear.
It
Um,
is.
and I want to, so you talked about the bite shot, right? I have not taken part in the bite shot, but I know a lot of food bloggers who have, and find that adds so much time to their lives because it helps you to become more efficient with your photography, correct?
Yes, yes. I mean, and the photos, I'll talk about like my photography tips kind of thing a bit later, but my photos in general are quite simple. But I find is having, those basic concepts and those basic, tricks that are really going to make a difference in your photography, because we all know how important photography is. So I think it's worth spending a little bit of time on learning basic things about
Yeah.
photography for sure.
Okay, we'll get to I know you have some specific photography tips in just a bit, but let's go back to other resources that you've used to make your life more efficient.
Yes. So another thing is the Fizz plugin for my blog theme. So I love the layout and the simplicity of this. Again, it's paid. I was using a free theme at the start, but then I was like, how is all these people having like these amazing themes on their website? I also want it. And I realized again, I had to use a paid one. I know it's a bit of an investment, but again, it's worth it. And these themes are also optimized for SEO. So I also think that using the Fizz plugin, which costs like 249 American dollars, which is like 390 Australian dollars, is a year. I know it's a fair bit, but it really does make a difference. It's very, very easy to use, and the theme is very beautiful. And then also a very good web hosting. I use Big Scoots, which I think, you also promoted, or Food
Yes,
Blogger Pro,
love
I
Big
can't remember.
Scoots. Yeah,
Yeah, they have great customers support,
the
and
best.
it's 35 American dollars, which is 56 Australian dollars per month. So again, it's a fair bit of money. I spend about like $100 a month plus like some yearly expenses on my blog but it's been so worth it. And I think spending, investing all this is really made a difference. And I can see how since I started using the right tools, the right hosting, my traffic has really improved a lot. And I think obviously it's about the content that I have put out there, but it's also about using these things.
Absolutely. And I love that you use the word investing over
Yes.
spending. You actually corrected yourself
Yes.
because so often people talk and they're like, "Oh, I'm spending so much money." And it's like, "No, actually, you're investing in your business if you do it wisely, and that's giving you your time and energy back." So, I
Mm-hmm.
love that you are like, "Oh, not spending, investing."
Exactly, because then, we are going to make money thanks to all this money that we've put in. So it's an investment.
Absolutely. Yes, they're giving you basically money back in your pocket. But yeah, I know it's a hang up for some people like, "Wait, I don't have $30 a month or $250 a year or whatever," but in the long run, this is going to give you all of that money back plus some. So you have to kind of change your perspective on it.
Yes.
Uh, love everything you've mentioned so far. Anything else as far as resources that's going to help?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to your photography tips. What tips do you have for us to be
Awesome.
more efficient with our photos?
So perfect. Well, first of all would be to get a professional camera. You don't need a fancy camera. I have a pretty simple mirrorless camera. I've got a Canon EOS M50. It's super easy to use. I've got a basic lens because also I move a lot. So for me, it's just not possible to have like a huge camera with a huge lens, Also, because to be fair, like I don't really know how to use like a super fancy camera, but I find this is enough and it makes good photos. And then I edit them in Lightroom. Then also because I'm always in the move, I was living in Sydney for a bit, but then we went traveling, then we went back to Sydney. Now we are kind of like traveling again. We are in Australia, we go to Indonesia, I go to Spain.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yes. So we are
Take me
definitely
with you.
so I don't have access to like, lots of props all the times and things like that. So I always aim for simple photos. And I know, sometimes we all want to make those amazing photos with so much decoration, but I think
Yeah.
be realistic about the photos that you can make. So, I just get like a nice crockery set, just like some nice cutlery, like a nice bowl and a nice plate. And, just play around decorating with like ingredients that you have, of like, or some herbs. And, if you get like a very nice, few very nice shots of the main recipe, that can be enough. You don't need,
Mhm.
these super fancy photos. So that can be enough. So, and then also have a nice backdrop. So I actually have a backdrop set in my camper van. I have one in Spain at my parents' house. And then when I travel and I know I might do some photos, sometimes I take with me like a very big like tea towel or something like that I can use for decoration and also as a backdrop. And then I always shoot with natural light as well.
Mm.
And this can also, sometimes it can be very limiting because there's only certain times of the day where I can shoot, but I say just know what times of the day are going to be good for shooting your recipes. I find that early in the morning or later in the day work well for you, well, work well for me. Just with not with direct sunlight, and cloudy days are the best. So just plan your shoots around those times when the lighting is gonna be good.
Yeah. I love that you do simple. I think I too love the lavish photos that I see sometimes. I personally am a simple gal as well because I'm kind of lazy and I just feel like this looks beautiful too. So if I can choose between simple and quick and extravagant and not quick, I'm always going to go with simple and quick.
Yeah, and like they require a lot of like time and setting up and like having a good space and sometimes also like artificial lighting. So if you don't have access to that, yeah, just don't make your life so hard trying to do all these
Yeah.
things and then getting frustrated. Like, if that's where you want to go, for sure, go for it and learn how to do it. But if you only have like limited resources, aim for simple, and it can still be very beautiful.
It's so true. Simple can be so, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else first of all, I love that you travel and take pictures on the go and on the road. That's so cool. And that you've just
Yeah.
made it work. So do you have any other tips for us?
No, I think that'd be it. I mean, I will be honest. Sometimes I get really frustrated because I'm like, oh, I need more resources to be able to do this. But it is what it is. I kind of like learn as I go, and yeah, still making it work so far. Oh no! Oh, oh, sorry, just cut
Oh,
off for a
sorry. I
second.
think we blipped out just a little bit there.
Yes,
I'm just going to make a note.
all good.
Um,
Yeah,
okay,
and I
so
think that
last,
would be it.
you were just saying that you get frustrated because you wish you had more, I think, resources or.
Yeah, so sometimes I'm like, oh, I need more resources, like it's hard, for example, like if I'm traveling in my camper van, and I'm trying to shoot recipes, it can be very challenging sometimes, but, I kind of learn as I go, and I try to stay calm and tell myself, it is what it is, if one day something doesn't work out, it's okay. I can try again the day after.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that perspective. So, outside of photography tips, Alicia, do you
hmm
have tips for just being overall efficient with our time? Because all of us, every person listening, can use these tips, I feel like.
Yes, I do. My first tip, and something that I have really implemented over the last year, is to be super intentional with my content. So I understood that, if I wanted to grow my blog, I really had to aim for recipes that had high volume traffic. So I have been super intentional with my keyword research, and I have really focused on doing first recipes that have the higher volume. So, especially because my capability to shoot and public recipes is more limited. So I'm like, all right, if I've done keyword research, I'm going to start shooting the recipes that have the higher volume first. I'm not gonna do recipes that barely had any volume search volume, because there's no point, right? Like, my aim at the moment is to grow my traffic. So you have to publish recipes that have high volume, even though we all know our mom's recipe for whatever it is amazing and we really want to publish it. But if nobody's looking for it, maybe wait until your blog is bigger to publish those recipes. And then also, I want to say that I use Pinterest. So Pinterest at the moment drives about 10% of my traffic. It's not huge, but it's definitely enough to, use Pinterest. I highly recommend it. It's good to use. And then with Instagram, I've always had a love-hate relationship. It just takes so much time to do Instagram, and I've never found that, is really work for me. I've had times that I have spent so much time on Instagram, really tried to grow my Instagram, but I haven't been successful with it. I know some people are, but you just also identify your strengths. I found that if I spend time doing SEO, I have seen results. Like, it really works. So, I also took a break from Instagram, like about 6 months last year. I just didn't feel like using it. Like, I wasn't really planning to have this break, but it just came from inside, and I kind of listened to my needs as well. And it was really good, because I find sometimes Instagram can also drain a lot of our energy, because I love I love to have the blog. I love to share recipes, but Instagram requires you to be there all the time on the platform, interacting, so it can be very draining. So I, if you feel like whoa, Instagram is taking so much of your energy, I encourage you to take a break, because it's not going to be the end of the world. Some people are like, oh my gosh, you take a break from Instagram, and the algorithm, the numbers, blah blah blah. But it's okay, I promise the world doesn't end and after Instagram. And I tell you, my blog traffic during that break went up a lot, so it can be worth it.
Oh, good. That's amazing.
Yes, and then I also say just plan. So plan ahead. For me, for example, that I travel a lot, so I always plan ahead what I'm going to, what recipes I'm going to develop or to shoot. Also, sometimes it's depending on where I'm gonna be, the resources that I'm gonna have, like resources like can be like appliances. Am I gonna have like a proper kitchen? Am I not? So for example, if I'm gonna go to Spain and I know I'm gonna be staying at my parents' place, I know I'm gonna have like a lot of appliances and resources. So I'm gonna do a bit of keyword research beforehand. So I'm gonna be prepared for the time that I'm gonna be there and know, exactly the things that I wanna cook. And also, I would say batch your recipe shooting. I do this a lot. So for example, maybe I might have like a month where I'm like shooting so many recipes, and I can be like, a few months that I actually don't shoot anything. And I find that it works really well because, I have that time where I'm really focused on, making recipes and shooting them. And then I know I have the content for the coming months. So I found that that really works for me in terms of organizing my time. And I've heard in podcasts a lot of other bloggers out there that they also do this. So I think it's very helpful for a lot of people. um, Another tip would be realistic about what you can do. And you hear so many times like, if you want to grow your blog, you need to post 4 recipes a week. And I'm like,
You're like, what? Who does this?
four,
Yeah.
I'm like, 4 recipes a week. I sometimes I can't even do 4 recipes a month. And I think that's okay. Just, really be realistic about what you can do. Don't compare yourself to what others are doing out there, because we are all different. Our situation is different to each other, and that's completely okay. So at the moment, for example, because we are traveling in Australia, I'm in the camper van, so I'm aiming for 2 recipes a month, and that's okay. That's working for me. It also fits within my design job that I do as a contractor. I do a little bit more than like what is would be like part-time. So I find that works, and it also works with my personal life, because I'm also in a moment where I'm like, all right, I went through a period of my life when I was trying to do too much. Now I'm in a period of my life when, I really want to have a very good work-life balance, and the blog is part of work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to not like stress myself with that. And then I'd
Yeah.
say
Can I
always
say one thing really quick about that
yes.
last point? This this is where I struggle and where a lot of people struggle, and it's just like we feel like we can take on so much more than we can, and when we do that, that's when the burnout and bad things happen. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, do you have advice for that? Like, how did you land on your the number of recipes you do a month, and how does someone else land on that? Is it just by experimentation, or do you have another way to do that?
Yeah, yeah, I think definitely experimentation, see where you're, you know, understanding how much time a recipe is going to take you to do, because obviously you need to do the recipe testing. I mean, I always do the recipe testing, even if it's a recipe that you are kind of like super sure is going to work, because I've tried not doing it in the past, and then I'm shooting and then it doesn't work, and then I'm like, that was a waste of time. So always recipe test. And then yeah, I guess yeah, just like experience. um just experience, and also understanding how much time you want to be spending on your blog, how much spare time you've got, after your personal life, if you've got a full-time job. part-time job, whatever it is. Yeah, understanding how what works for you. I've got to say that I do two new recipes, but I also do I update old posts. So I try to do maybe like another two or so a month. I don't
Yeah.
have like a set number, but I think this is kind of like, after a few years, I landed on this number because I was like, all right, I think this is doable. And I've also reached kind of like a volume of traffic now that I'm happy with. So I'm like, all right, my blog is kind of like my side hustle, is not my main source of income. So I'm happy to, put this much effort and, slowly keep growing it.
Yeah. No, I like that. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted you. So back to
Oh,
your
no.
amazing time efficiency tips.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this could be it. I don't know if you have like any other questions.
How do you manage your just kind of your week to week schedule? So it sounds like you travel a lot. Do you plan really far in advance? It sounds like you do some planning, but how far out are you like, okay, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be doing this? And how specific do you get? I would love to hear all those details.
Yeah, so I always do the keyword research first. So super important. I do the keyword research first. So if I found a recipe, right, I'm gonna make this recipe because I have ranking potential and it's got volume. So basically, what I try to do is like, I want to cook it in like 5 days or 2 weeks. I guess sometimes it can also depend on how complex the recipe is and how much recipe testing I'm gonna need. But so let's say I'm like, I want to shoot it in like 2 weeks. So during my day to day, I try to feed like two recipe testings. Usually that is enough. Sometimes I've needed more, but I find that two recipe testings is usually enough. And then I always plan, all right, this day and time, I'm going to do my recipe shooting. And then, yeah, and then usually now that I don't work full time, I set like a time, one day, whether that is 5 hours or depending on how much time I'm gonna need, to really focus on doing that. Because otherwise I find it's really important to really schedule the time when you're going to do things, because otherwise life happens and we
Yeah.
find excuses not to do it. So I would say yes, definitely like schedule your time. And if you say, all right, next Friday I'm gonna do this, put time aside and say and do it. Because I found that otherwise I had before, I was like, all right, well, I'll do it one day this week, and then the week passes and I'm like, oh, I haven't done it. So schedule things always.
Yeah, the for me, the pain of getting behind is enough to make me stay on track with things I schedule. Does that make sense? Like,
Yes.
I've been behind in the past to the point where it's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so frazzled and burnt out and tired, and I cannot do this again." So now when I plan something, this is why I stay on track because I don't wanna go through that again. I need to stay stay the course. It's
Yes.
so important, especially if you run, if you're doing something else besides your food blog or if you have a family or if you travel a lot or whatever. If you have a
Mhm.
life basically and run a food blog, you need to plan.
Yes, and I mean, how much I plan in advance, to be honest, it really depends. So now that, for example, I try to fit it within like my life at the moment. So now we are, as I say, we are in Australia. We're in our camper van, so I'm pretty limited with what I can do. So I just plan, like, I say, all right, this month I'm gonna do this, and I've got two recipes that I know I want to shoot, and I find the time. Obviously, living in a camper van is limiting, so two is what it works. Then in a few months, I'm gonna be going to Spain to visit my family for a few weeks. So I know, for example, when I go to Spain, I'm really gonna try to squeeze a lot of recipes in there. So I'm gonna do a lot of like batch cooking for there. Hopefully, like maybe I can get like 8 recipes shoot in like 4 or 6 weeks, and then I'm gonna be publishing those recipes throughout the following months. So yeah, I plan ahead depending on what my life is going to look like on the
Yeah,
future
and I
months.
think all of us have those things, right? Like a lot of us might not travel as much as you do, but like summers for me, my boys are off of school and I want to spend time with them. So I always cut way back on blog content. And last summer, I was so burnt out that I didn't even open my website. I didn't even open WordPress most of the summer. And guess what? Nothing exploded. Everything was fine.
That's
That's kind
awesome.
of talking on the point you said earlier. Like if you have to ignore a platform or even your blog for a little bit just to get by and be sane, it's okay. And you are going to survive and everything is going to be okay. Right.
Yeah, totally. And I think, also it can be very, draining sometimes, the world of content creation. So I think if you feel like you need to take a break, listen to yourself and take the break, because you might think, oh my gosh, I'm missing out, I could be being productive all this time. But it's also very important to be and, just be okay. And if you take a break, then you're gonna come back with more energy, more creativity. You're gonna be more inspired. So it's actually, you're not gonna waste your time. It's gonna be good for you, because sometimes we just need a bit of time to reset. So I think it's super important to do that as well.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I know that I've tried to push through periods where I'm like either burnt out or just exhausted, and trying to work like that is like the most counterproductive thing. Have you ever done that where you kind of force yourself to work and then it takes you 19,000 times longer than it should?
Oh yeah, I have. And yeah, especially when I was still working full time, and I was trying to do so much, because also I was concerned. I knew, I was going to stop working full time and I wasn't going to have like a steady income. And I really wanted to grow my blog to start making me an income. So I was like, I really need to, put a lot of time on this. And sometimes I would stay, up until late at night and push through, but then I wouldn't sleep well, because I would be in front of the computer until too late. I wouldn't have a good night's sleep. I would wake up feeling tired, and I would just be dragging myself. And as I was saying at the beginning, I was like, this is not what my blog is about. My blog is also about, like a healthy lifestyle. And a healthy lifestyle involves not only food, but also, like your personal work life balance. So yeah, definitely, um yeah, don't overwork. Although I must say as well, I also know that for me it was a specific period that I was doing that, and then, it pay back, because I know that I work a lot during a few months, and then I could actually see the results. But yeah, probably if I could go back, maybe I would try to be a little bit more gentle with myself, or I don't know how to say it. Just, yeah, gentle.
Yeah, I think gentle is the perfect way to say that.
Yes.
I can so relate to what you were saying, Alicia, about kind of preaching or walking the walk, talking the talk, like doing what you're telling other people to do,
Mm-hmm.
because I talk a lot on the podcast about taking care of yourself and making sure you're balanced, and you have to do all these things and be mentally in the right space, and you can't overwork and all of that. But I get there too. So I get to that point where you were at, where it's like, wait, I'm telling everyone else to do this, yet I'm feeling burnt out. It's
Yes.
such a cycle for me. Here I am again, and then I start over. Here I am again. But yeah,
Yes.
I think over time we learn how to deal with ourselves, like how to handle
Yeah.
ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And I think, like us as food bloggers, we can go through burnout, and a lot of other people can experience it as well. But I'd say, yes, if you have experienced it, one, just be very aware of what took you to that point and avoid it in the future, because yeah, it's not good for you. We can avoid it, and sometimes we make mistakes, and that's completely normal. It's just part of being a human. But yeah, don't overwork yourself to that point, because it's not worth it.
It is not worth it. Nothing is worth it getting to that stage. So take it from Alicia and me. So my last question for you, Alicia, is if there was one single tip you could give to somebody who is really struggling with just having to do all the things, they have so much going on and they feel like they can make no time for their blogs, what is your number one tip?
So I think my number one tip would be just be realistic and be patient. Like for me now, it's taken like 3.5 years to arrive to where I am. I've just been accepted to Mediavine, which has been super exciting. But if you can't do everything, we are not superhumans. So yeah, just be realistic, and it's okay. You know, um, we only have the time that we have. There's only 24 hours a day, and 8 of them we should be sleeping. So don't put yourself goals that are impossible, because you're just gonna put so much pressure in yourself. And sometimes things take time, and that's okay. And maybe if I can say two tips, the other tip would be, yeah, just be very intentional with your content, and really, go for the content that is gonna give you results.
Yeah, you want it to matter, right? If you're going to take the time to put the content together, then make it count, or at least do your best in calculating that, because we can't always know for sure, but you
Yeah.
can plan your best.
Yes.
What an amazing, inspiring conversation. I so appreciate this and just you sharing about you and your story. And I want to come visit you and do all of your traveling with you, as you're talking about going to Spain and being in your camper van. I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Sounds pretty
Thank you.
amazing. So I'll show up at your doorstep next week and then you can take me with you. I'm just kidding. But thank you. Seriously, thank you for sharing everything. And we just so appreciate all of this, Alicia.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's been so fun chatting with you,
Yeah.
Megan.
How did your first podcast interview go? Give it a
Good.
rating.
Yeah,
Good.
really good.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you.
It was painless, I hope.
Yes, definitely,
Good.
Pilots.
Okay, good. Well, do you have either a favorite quote or words of inspiration to leave us with as we end?
Yes, I do. And I always like to say that with intention, effort, and dedication, amazing things can happen.
What an absolute perfect way to end this conversation. I love it. So true.
Thank you.
We will put together a show notes page for you, Alicia, and you can find those at eatblogtalk.com/bites in the wild. So remind everyone where they can find you.
Yes, so I'm on Instagram at Bites in the Wild, and also in Pinterest at Bites in the Wild. I had a TikTok account, but I never use it, so probably don't bother looking into that. I'm also on Facebook at Bites in the Wild, and then my website, which you've mentioned.
Everyone, go check out all of Alicia's channels. And thank you again for being here. And thank you so much for listening, food bloggers. I will see you next time.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this topic, be sure to watch the video shown on the screen. See you next time.